Hello and welcome to the first ever Disability Horizons TV episode where we're going to be talking about sex and disability, and I've got three guests here I'm sure they're going to entertain us. And the first is Caroline Bathurst, who is from Disability Horizons. You're our partnerships manager.
That's right. Yep.
That's it. And then we've got a couple of faces that many of you are bound to recognise and hope you had never seen before, actually. One is the amazing Dan White, who I'm taking from their Twitter bios, writer, broadcaster, columnist, but we all know him as Cara and Emily's dad, really. And he's the guy that's out there.
Yeah.
He's the
guy
that's
political annoyance.
Yeah, he's the man that speaks up for us, and we're very grateful. And then we've got the amazing 80s throwback, or that's what I refer to as. The 80s threw up Mick Scarlet, who's a broadcaster, journalist, actor, musician, and you also train people on access and inclusion. And I must say that
I've always said I'm a jack of all trades and a master of all of them because I'm so wonderful. No, I'm
all of them.
And yeah, so, I have a very varied and interesting career. I won't deny.
Well, you've got to just to try and get the work, haven't you?
Yes, that's it, really.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone goes, "You do so many things," and it's like, "Well, yeah, because if I don't make a living."
Yeah, so that's what people say to me. You do quite a lot. I said, "Yeah, the option otherwise there's a cardboard box somewhere for the wheelchair parked outside, and that's just not really viable." Yeah.
And live from my cardboard box, we start to talk about sex and disability because there is a massive stigma. In fact, one of the first things, my disability sort of slowly crept up on me and then smacked me in the face around about 12 years ago, and I started using a wheelchair. And my first thought was, oh shit, sex. And the night before my operation on my knees, which I knew wasn't going to go well, I opted for a style of sex, shall we say, that I knew I would probably never do again and haven't since. And that was my big thing. Damn, my sex life is over.
Really?
It's funny because today we are filming this on the 40th anniversary of me becoming a wheelchair user.
That's uncanny.
This morning, today, I woke up and said, I don't feel very well. My legs hurt. But my mum made me go to school anyway. And by the evening, I was in hospital with a spinal collapse. That meant that was it. Goodbye walking and goodbye erections. So I also went through a period of saying, right, that's it. Sex is over for me. And for about, I was only 15, so I hadn't done a lot of it beforehand, and I had about 3 years of really thinking that no one would want to have sex with me because I didn't have sex like I'd been taught in school, and then I learned that was not the case and haven't looked back. So yeah, I think it's,
you have to look back sometimes to see who's there.
Oh no, the way I do it, I can always see what's going on and the things I'm into. But anyway, I think that one of the things is that we live in a society that says we're not sexual. And so when it happens to you, if it happens to you later in life, you take that on board. And if you grow up disabled, you don't see yourself as sexy because you don't know many sexy disabled people. You haven't seen any. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't talk about you in sex ed. So I think either way, whichever one you're part of, yeah, sex is something that really we don't get considered, and it's something we have to spend a lot of time dealing with in our own heads or beds or wherever, to get to a place where we're happy. How we do that, I suppose, is what we're going to chat about next.
No, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Spot on that. We're sold falsehoods on what sex is everywhere, even from childhood, aren't we? It's just even if I was at school, it was that the joy sex was the man with a beard and the woman, and they're both able-bodied, and you carry with that because at that point there was gay people didn't have sex. In the 70s when I was doing sex education and stuff like that, disabled people didn't have sex. We've moved on whereby now they will talk about consenting, obviously gay couples, LGBTQ couples, lesbian couples having sex, but they're still not talking about disabled people having sex. And it just makes you wonder where the marker is ethically in society, that thanks to a cornucopia of age-old stereotypes about what physical perfection is, which we're still getting rammed down our throats now across the telly 24/7. When's this stereotypical nonsense actually going to end, and people are actually going to realise that it doesn't matter who or what you are or how you communicate or how you can get around. Everyone has, as a species, an endemic sexual feeling and wants to literally have sex. It's
that
just bizarre.
urge, it's programmed into us, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I mean,
it's primal.
You're in a different position to the rest of us in the fact that you've got a young daughter who is growing up fast, and when you have that chat, it's going to be very different for you as a parent than for most of us with able-bodied, I mean, whatever that means, children.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that conversation will come, but even from a personal point of view, with the bipolar and even with my chronic body dysmorphia, both those things to a degree affect me in that situation. I mean, I've been subjected to God knows how many instances on television. You see it in advertising now of the six-pack male buff and stuff like that, and that feeds into my psyche and makes me incredibly self-conscious to the point I will not even dare take a t-shirt off. I will not even dare do it. I'll even avoid the mirror. And that just feeds into my subconscious, and it just makes me feel like a very low sexual being. It's just chronic across all aspects of disability, whether it being hidden or physical.
I mean, Caroline, three guys here nattering on, but I mean...
You noticed? I'm the only female.
Yeah,
and can I just say, you've got fantastic hair. I love that hair. That's beautiful. You. Yeah.
We had a good chat last week, actually, about this, me and Caroline, didn't we? About the sex toy industry catering for disabled people.
Practically non-existent.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing out there that says we can help disabled people have sex.
No. I mean, without prying into Caroline's life, I mean, Caroline has trouble with reaching areas. And this was a topic we discovered. There's no sex toys that allow a person, because vibrators, they're all very straight and everything. And it takes a degree of getting up and all the buttons are on the end of it. And how does somebody who struggles with a disability use something like that?
Ironically, I started my career in 1989 filming a documentary for Channel 4 called Willing and Able, and it is available on YouTube because I uploaded it, where I interview a woman who had issues with reach, and she was very proud of the fact that she had got someone to attach a vibrator to a piece of stick wood, and so she could pleasure herself with her own vibrator. It was one of my first interviews, and I did say to her, "Are you sure that everybody you don't mind everyone in Sainsbury's know that you've got a vibrator on a stick under the bed?" And later on, when Vic Reeves came out and said, "What's on the end of your stick?" every time I heard it, all I could think
was that image.
Yes, there are things we can't do, but there are things we can do, and I think that we don't anywhere near focus on that enough. And I think that we end up almost being our own worst enemy, in that we say, oh, disability and sex is really difficult. Everyone thinks it's a taboo. It's really bad, which means that society just goes, oh, well, okay, then. We don't ever go, actually, no, rubbish. Disability and sex is great. Disabled people have great sex. All the disabled people I know pretty much are married or in relationships. So kind of, we don't hear that story. We hear about, oh God, it's so hard. We can't find this and this doesn't work and no one fancies us. And when we go on dating apps, no one wants to go out with us. And it's like, of course they don't. People don't owe us sex. People don't owe us a relationship, and we have to admit that. But then people don't owe other people it either. It's not just disabled people. It's tough out there, folks. If you use dating apps as your means to get a date and to form relationships, then of course you're going to be judged on your physical appearance. It's not. So I always think that dating apps, people go, oh, well, they're not accessible and people are horrible. It's like, it's not really for us, is it? It's a horrible hookup thing for non-disabled people to have really crap relationships. And so maybe we need to kind of start celebrating the positive and then confront the negative. And I think that that's why I still do a lot of stuff about sex, even though I am now very old, and anyone young thinking about me having sex probably makes their toes curl. So because I think it's really important so that people like Emily and the younger generation don't grow up with us sticking all of our negative crap on their experience. Because to be honest, I didn't have that. I grew up in a world when no one talked about disability and sex. So actually, I didn't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to have it, other than the fact I didn't function like everybody else. When I learned that didn't matter, I never looked back. And I think that's it. I think almost we've become our own worst enemy sometimes.
I mean, if you rewind back again, mentioning the 80s, to the 80s when I was a teenager, before I met my wife, I now cringe at that person because young men are awful. And we do judge women. We judge women. And I now look back and I am like, she was a really nice girl. And I judged her because of maybe her figure, maybe because of like a big mole or something. Do you know what I mean? It's young men are awful. And young men, their only aim in sex is to put it in and come. They're very good at not caring about the woman's needs.
Yeah.
And I must say that my fear about losing my sex life has turned round. And where it calls me to slow down and rethink things is actually better than ever.
Yeah, it's actually giving you time to regress and look back, isn't it? And actually, but you can't blame yourself for your attitude at that time, because you live in, and we still are living in a culture where women are vilified in the press with body image for size and stuff. We still have only just come out the era of page 3 models. We've still got lads mags all flossing around the page. We've still got that. So until that is gone, and women. Women and the disabled community are in charge of their own destinies and their own, given a chance to show off and be more in front in publications, until society gets its head out of its own backside and suddenly realizes that bodies take all sizes, shapes, forms, colors, abilities and inabilities, and that this is just going to seep into another generation, unfortunately.
We look at perfect people and go, they must be happy. It's not great being perfect. And if anything, that's another thing that we learn. You know, we aren't perfect, so we don't have to care. So actually, it's sort of, you know, we can help. You know, I've been out with non-disabled partners most of my life. My wife doesn't describe herself as disabled, but she has a massive scar all down one side of her body from a burn. And, you know, we have the most similar experience of what it's like to grow up thinking that no one would want to be with us because of our physical nature. And we're probably two of the most confident people you know, because we've never been in a position to try and judge ourselves against the perfect. I mean, I had bulimia and anorexia when I was a teenager because I was trying to regain control of a new body that I didn't like, and keeping it thin. Was, you know, and I got down to really scary thin at one point. And it took a lot of time to get out of that. And it's always with you. I will always look in the mirror and see a body I don't like.
I've been disabled since birth, but backtracking slightly to what something was said earlier, I have only been a full-time wheelchair user for going on 16, 17 years now, but I walked with calipers. So I'm sure you guys must be old enough like me to remember Wurzel Gummidge.
Yeah.
Remember Aunt Sally?
Yeah.
I was nicknamed Aunt Sally because that's how I walked. But so that was very odd. Every time I saw my image, like my reflection in a shop window or in a mirror, if I wanted to try on some clothes, because I was limited to what clothing I could wear because my calipers would prevent me from wearing trousers. I didn't wear short skirts, obviously. Calipers, do you know what calipers are?
They were horrible years ago, weren't they? Really.
I wore one. I mean, I've been disabled all my life. It's just I became a wheelchair user at 15. I wore one from, like, that's how I learned to walk. I wore one on my right leg.
So you know yourself that walking is not the average walk. So I was always called Aunt Sally. But when I became a full-time wheelchair user, I was with my husband. We'd already been together, quite a few years, 10 years maybe. And even then, it was a confidence knock on my sexuality. Was I still attractive to him? Because I now have all this metal around me. Being sat down all the time, I put on a heck of a lot of weight very quickly. So all of that played a part in how I felt about myself and how I thought I would be perceived by my husband. And it took a lot of battling in myself, because not only was I dealing with the fact I can no longer walk, but I've now lost my sexuality as I felt.
That's not only disability related. I'm always having to tell my wife, she's 4'10". She's got curves, the way I describe it. She's sexy, but she refuses to see it.
Yeah.
And that's like you're saying, it's not just related, it's the whole society's input on us as to what you must look like.
No, you're exactly right. And so I keep bringing it back to media stereotyping, but it's absolutely true. I mean, until it's accepted, but you still get every time. I mean, there are things like Heat magazine and stuff like that. They just need to be binned. They just need to be put on a big pyre and just burnt to ashes, because they're just so much of the problem. You walk past a supermarket shelf, like a celebrity gains weight and all stuff like that, and or they've lost their baby bump. Yeah, you think, Jesus H. Christ. I mean, is society really that shallow? Is the media really that shallow?
Did any of you recently see on Twitter the great big blow up of how a company had hired a model as their latest model, and she had a 24-inch waist but was classed as their plus size model?
Yes, I saw that. I thought
what
was
does
an
that
April
do to
Fool.
people like myself who doesn't have a 24-inch waist? I was mortified, because I'm like, what am I classed as then? I must be classed as obese. You know, if there
What
is
my doctor tells me.
I genuinely think that disabled people have a role to teach society how to be happy in their bodies.
Yes.
And I think that we can too easily go, I'm not like the perfect, so I can't be happy. And actually, it's actually, I can't be like the perfect. It's not possible. I'm not going to be standing up. I'm not going to be, you know, David Beckham in his underpants. It's just not going to happen. And that's not saying that affects your confidence, but it's kind of, I think in the modeling industry, it's kind of accepted that you can be an amputee or have a bit missing, but the rest of you's got to be perfect. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, that's no good, because lots of us have all the bits. They just look really different, and they're all put together different. And that's still sexy. You know, my wife grew up thinking that no one would want her because one side of her body is all scarred. Since being with her, we've had like world famous makeup artists fly across the world to do her makeup because they wanted to make up her arm when she was modeling. Because one of the things is we forget our history, right? When I was a kids' TV presenter, I used to get such filthy fan letters from mums. I can't even begin to tell you. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah,
right?
Have you kept them?
No, I have not.
What, good disgusting?
Right? Oh, some were good, some were scary. I had to get the police involved with a couple of stalkers. It was a gamut, right? And none of them ever said, "Oh, you know, I would do all this stuff to you, but you're disabled." And you know, I was on the cover of magazines, and do you know what I mean? And Di was modeling, and because it was pre-social media, pre-web, it's gone. And I think that, so now we've got this thing where kids are going, oh, there wasn't anyone in television, there wasn't anyone in music, there isn't anyone. And it's like, there used to be loads of people, but the record of us has disappeared. There's always been disabled pop stars, you know, Gene Vincent, Ian Dury, you know, they've always been there. And there's always been lots of the kind of other people in the industry, actors, loads of disabled actors that never really came out because it might ruin their career. We're seeing a flood now of people being more confident. But that's what we need. We need people to come out and say, I'm proud of who I am. And we need to do it too. Like I said, you know, when you meet people that are models, that are all sashaying around thinking they're, you know, acting like they're gorgeous, and then they come off and they just spend an hour picking their body to pieces because they don't think they're lovely, you realize that it's all rubbish and everyone fakes it, so they just fake it as well.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
And that's what, you know, Caroline and you've been both talking about, that knock. And I remember waking up and thinking, right, that's it, you know, all the things don't work now, I'm over. And I had to rebuild that confidence. But that's what I mean, is us older generation, we should be helping the younger generation not go through that. We should be saying, no, but
society wants to fix us. I mean, look at what they call it, the inspiration porn, where the guy at the wedding, where his mate's helping to stand up for a photo. It's like, why does he feel the need to do that?
Yeah, and everyone was put on an, I'm not crying, you are.
But it does also impact on how society perceives us as sexual.
I won't go into details, but I have had my fair share of male shallowness over especially in my teenage years. And like you were saying earlier, men can be very cruel. And I've been on the receiving end of that a couple of times, but hey ho, you grow up and you grow and you learn to love yourself and get self-confidence, which is what all of us have done over the years.
Yeah.
Problem is, by the time you get the confidence, I turn around and I go, yes, I'm confident. I want to tell everyone, and I'm 53. with grey hair, and none of the kids want to listen to me because they're like, "You seen that old disabled guy rattling on?"
Yeah, no, yeah, that is one of our major problems. Is it is true that just when you really do reach that point where you think I am really happy with who I am and what I do and everything's great, suddenly you enter that new phase where you're now having grey sex, which is of course something that no one under the age of 30 even wants to consider happens. So the last thing you can do is get into a room full of people and say, hey, we're going to talk to you about sex and confidence. Like, oh, get lost, can't imagine it. No, pull my eyes out, rip my brains out. So yeah, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah, when the reviews took a turn and we got some sex toys in for review, my daughters were horrified. But I had that stigma. I mean, sex toys for me, it was like, yeah, they're for women. They're vibrators. They're for women. They're not for men. And I had this whole thing to have good sex. It had to be penetrative sex. And then we reviewed a couple of sex toys, which made me realize, no, even on the work, because I've got the problem with fatigue and high pain levels, obviously. So my brain's still going, let's have sex. And my body's going, you are having a laugh. But my brain wins. Well, my wife wins often, but it's now possible, without, again, going into too many details, that no, it doesn't have to be penetrative sex where I've then got a 3-day flare-up. It could be mutual with sex toys.
Oh, absolutely.
To be honest,
there's a myth about penetrative sex being the be-all and end-all. It's an absolute myth. I mean, you find that most gay couples don't even indulge in penetrative sex. It's just they do mutual things together for pleasure. It's just the porn industry and stuff like that selling it as the big money shot, the big finish. It's just crap.
To be honest, I'm very lucky, you see, because as of 15, I said bye-bye penetration, and so I had to learn how to have sex without it.
Have you still got that tongue pierced?
No, I don't. I'm not messing with my tongue. It's too bloody valuable, mate. Flipping shot. When everyone was getting their tongue pierced, everyone said, "Oh, Mick, your tongue's so big. Why don't you pierce it?" And I was like,
"That's how he's got by."
I'm not mucking about with this. This is golden, mate. This is my
to be
magic
fair,
gift.
Yeah, I think to be fair, Mick, your mouth is never closed long enough.
No, we live in a penetrative society, and when that was taken away from me, I had to go on a journey. And, I've talked about the fact that I was very lucky. It was the 80s. I hung around with a group of gay and especially lesbian people who basically taught me that sex is not what we're taught it is. It's something else. And then I went off and discovered that actually, when you take away the penetrative function, the erectile function, men start responding the way that women do. And we hear a lot about things like multiple orgasms and all that kind of stuff. Men can do that too. It's just that your bodies react differently when your erection goes down. You can't be touched because that's part of what it does. But when you don't have that function, you can be touched and it can go on for much longer. So without wanting to sound like the disabled Sting, it kind of brings a whole new, so the idea that everyone's going, oh my God, I've lost it open. Oh, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction? Like, it's like, have you just had all your arms and legs drop off? Yeah. And it's like, no, actually, rather than spend money trying to find a way of doing it the way you did it before, how about spending just a couple of weeks having a go at it in a new way?
Therapists will say to couples who are having these problems, no sex, no penetrative sex, to try and fix that. Stop doing this because you're just shagging, basically. Yeah. Explore each other with
that's it. Yeah, option. That's it. Exploration, and you'll find out more about each other than you ever would have done before.
But the thing is, there are, disabled and non-disabled couples that are horrified the minute the word sex toys is brought into the conversation. They just go hiding. So I think we've got to break that barrier before we can move forward. Early on in my sexual experiences, I never even knew what a sex toy was. It was literally only from when I met my husband, and we've been together quite a while now, it was only with him that I experimented with sex toys or even knew what a sex toy was and even had the guts to even look online to purchase one. So, there are a lot of barriers, unfortunately, that I think we need to do our best to knock down.
Exactly. There's too many stigmas.
Since Anne Summers went on the high street, it's a little bit easier and talked about. But again, Anne Summers is framed with all this perfect body.
Yeah.
As you go in, isn't it? And that whole thing of you look round in the high street before you go in, and then you quickly
Oh,
Which
I
is
got very
really bizarre, though. It's really bizarre. And you think we live in such a sexual society when sexual imagery is everywhere,
Yep.
and apprehension is still a thing.
Because obviously I'm quite well known for having frequented fetish clubs, and I went to those because it was the only place I went to where I was considered to be a sexual being. Before, in normal casual clubs or in discos or whatever, I'd go out and boys would come up and hit on my partner, and they'd just say, well, what are you with him for? You want to be with me because I'm a real man. He can't do what I can do, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it happened every night. It was just disgusting. And yet I went to a fetish club and everyone went, well, we're here because it's a sexual place. That person is here, so therefore they must be sexual. So I won't judge, they must do something. Whatever they do, they must enjoy it. And it was a liberating thing. So it wasn't necessarily that I was there to, hang off the rafters and have me bollocks nailed to a lump of wood. I was there just because for the first time in my life.
It just happened.
That was something, that was a side effect. But it was kind of like, it was a place where I was accepted without knowing anything about it. And that, I think, has changed. Sex, people can talk more openly about sex. It wasn't talked about when I was young. I think people are more sort of prepared to experiment. I think younger people are a little bit more accepting. We still have a body perfect thing, but then there's a reaction to that with the body posi movement. And I think the thing is, what disabled people need to do is start positioning themselves more, especially younger disabled people, as voices of that. I think one of the big problems that's happened with society is we've been told we have the right to sex. And we don't. No one does. We have the right to be sexual. And that's very different. No one owes us sex, right? It's a mutual consensual thing. It's not an, you owe me it. No, that's the kind of thing. That way, dark thoughts lead.
Yeah.
So remember that. Be sexual yourself. Enjoy yourself. Find a way of being happy with yourself. And then go out and find someone that is happy with you. Or two people, or a football team, or whatever you're into. We've always lived in a image obsessed society. Let's start championing. I mean, there's always, don't forget, Shannon Murray was one of the first disabled models in the 90s. Face of Mac, all around the world, all over posters. We can be sexy too. I grew up with punk, right? Caroline had calipers. I had calipers. Do you know what I did? I wore them on the outside of my trousers. I put handbag straps on them and turned them into bondage trousers, bondage things. Before bloody Mad Max came out with it.
I'd have given my parents a heart attack if I'd done that with my calipers.
That's what punk rock was about.
Exactly. Emily's completely going down that route now. She's really punking up everything. She's really steampunking everything. And she's got my full and utter blessing to do whatever she wants, because now she's of that age whereby if a surgeon suggests cosmetic surgery, as they call it, to legs and arms, that's her decision to have. That's her decision how to do that. This is entirely up to her. If it's an emergency surgery, fair enough, she's got to have it. But stuff like that, physicality stuff, is up to her. But she's very, 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 very confident. Because she has, I don't know, I'm not just saying this, but she has been brought up with a lot of good role models. You, for instance, who've shown her the confidence that there is in your physical self. And so what you don't realize is that what you've been doing, even though you probably don't feel it makes a lot of difference to her, it's made a great bigger difference, because I can see her confidence soaring. So imagery and the stuff you talk about, I think characters, it's not me to call you a character, but you know what I mean, individuals like yourself should really be at the forefront of this, because you're as well as parents like myself, you're really, really trying to change people's attitudes. And for her, it's wonderful. Like I said, we let her just, if she's indulging herself in whatever she wants, whatever hobby she wants to do, just go for it, because this is her life. But she's also getting that other feedback from individuals like yourself, where she's feeling that confidence as, because you're mutually mutually connected from a wheelchair perspective. So she's just lapping it up. Having
wheeled through the South Bank Centre behind Emily, I don't think I've ever met anything like the force of nature she is.
And she's lucky. She's got access to a role model like Mick through you.
Yes.
Young disabled people don't. I mean, we joke as a family on EastEnders. We see if we can spot the token wheelchair person in every episode.
Oh, we do that. We do that just constantly for the telly. I did a thing the other day about, I started in the morning, spot the disabled person on television. And I think I just didn't even fill in one figure. Also, this myth of the people that are in pain, they get stronger and stronger, more resilient, whereas your nerves actually become more sensitive to pain over time. Yeah. That central nerve wind-up, and we could end up with silly things. I can't let the dog, even though she's about that big, walk on my lap. My grandkids, they can just sort of like, at times they can sit on my lap, other times they brush past me, and it's agony.
my husband or my kids come near me, and I've got a dog too, she's quite feisty, she jumps up and I'm literally screaming, get off, you're hurting. I mean, you know, Jeff can just like touch my arm because he helps me get dressed in the mornings, and he can touch my arm and I'll be like, ow, and he'll be like, but I didn't touch you.
And this comes down to sex again, you know, our bodies, you know, no, I can't get on top and have sex anymore and do the movements because it doesn't move very well, and also I end up in a lot of pain, but I can't have anybody on me either. Well, I sometimes choose to because I'm happy to be in pain for 3 days for it, but
yeah, it's the cost benefit analysis.
People don't understand that we are prepared to be in pain to do certain things, to be, I don't know, to take control.
Yeah, no, it's a whole. The whole thing is it's just a cornucopia of just mix-up stuff, isn't it? Like I said, from my personal perspective, with my bipolar and my body dysmorphia, like I said, it's one of those things that I cannot even bear when I'm in bed to look at my own self. It's bizarre, you know. I even want to go when it's hot in the summer. I cannot take my top off my bed. I have to wear something to cover myself. If I lay down and catch something, or even look in the mirror and catch something that's off, that's it for the rest of the day. I'm just not going to eat. I'm just going to go for a 10-mile run or whatever it is. So it just seems that whether it's physical or where it's hidden, there's just so much that society needs to be taught and embrace about it.
Thing is, though, we could say we've got to teach society about it, but I think we also need to understand about ourselves. It's like, I mean, like I said, I have exactly the same. You know, I've always had body dysmorphia. I now, on purpose, wheel around the house naked whenever I can, and there's mirrors everywhere. Because if you see yourself enough, you start to go, actually, what am I worrying about? Yeah, sometimes you go, oh, bloody hell, and you think, oh, that's a bit disgusting. But then you think, hang on a minute, compared to who?
I tried doing some YouTubing, and there were an odd moment where I'd go, oh, I don't actually look too bad there. I actually look human. And then the majority of the time, I was like, no, don't do that. So I've now gone to podcasting, or trying to, because then I don't have to look at myself.
It's when we see our own faults, don't we? Like that. Completely.
Well, look this way. I've been a TV presenter now for 32, nearly 33 years. I don't ever watch myself back, ever. Because
I never watch it. I never watch anything I'm on.
Pick myself to pieces.
We don't watch you, Mick.
Yeah, no, you don't get a chance anymore, sadly.
I got a YouTube comment saying I sound like a shit Jeremy Clarkson.
That's brilliant. Do you know what? The Guardian called me wheelchair-bound boot boy.
Oh, not wheelchair-bound again.
Bound. We're suffering. We're bound.
Wheelchair-bound boot boy.
We're
Scarlet.
victims. We're inspirational. Anything else you want to put on there?
Can you see a time when it actually gets better, or is it just generation struggling, feeling comfortable with themselves, hopefully, and just repeating?
I think the right people need to be in the right places. I think we've got to stop this barrage of middle class old white men ruling the roost over everything, ruling the roost over the media. I think it will get better, and I think that it's got better in my lifetime. I think there are some elements that have got worse. I think we have become a more perfect, obsessed, you know, surgery, Photoshop, all that stuff has made it so that Instagram lifestyle has meant that people think that other people have better lives than they do, and have better bodies than they do. But then, you know, that if you buy into all that, then you buy into all that. It's like watching pornography. If you think that's what sex is, then you're in trouble. What we need to be doing is saying this isn't sex. This is like the Avengers, right? You know, there aren't really green giant men that smash things up. You know, there's not really, you know,
I haven't watched that porn film.
Yeah. Oh dear. And when I came out about being impotent, before I'd lied and I'd done telly and I'd done everything works. Right, you know, orgasm, spunk, I knew nothing about it. I mean, I hadn't done it since I was 15. Then all of a sudden I came out when I got together with my wife. We discussed it. She said, yeah, you want to be open about this. Let's be truthful. So I came out on a TV show and I talked about it. And after that, all my non-disabled mates came up to me and went, Mick, all quiet, like, you know, on the sly. You know, you're not working, you know, Mr. Floppy. What do you do? Because I'm having terrible problems. I can't get it up in a minute. And it was like, oh, for God's sake. So all my mates that, you know, 2 weeks earlier have been talking about pearl necklaces and God knows what,
Yeah.
They were in exactly the same boat that I was. Just that I got used to it, and they thought it was something. Do you see what I mean? So they came to me and went, so what do I do? And that's what we can do. We can say, well, look, you're worried about your body not being perfect. Get out of it. Look at us. Right. And we're okay with it. So come to us, learn from us. And I think if we can get that done, I think it will change overnight for everyone. That's what inclusion is about. Diversity, representation. It means that the world can learn from each other and we grow. And I think that's it.
And I think Mick's right. I think this generation are going to be the ones, thanks to the advent of communication through social media and claiming back the language and claiming back their imagery. I think this is where it's all going to change.
Just remember, we're the ones that taught them that. Sex and disability comes in, why we need to shout so loudly about it and let people know we are no different. We enjoy sex as much as the next person, maybe more so. Some of us, some of us can't get enough of it. It's a case of, well, yes, I want to have sex. I enjoy sex and I'm not going to stop having sex. And if it does cause me pain, then on a case-by-case study, so to speak, you decide at the time, is it worth the pain? Hell yeah.
Absolutely. And in a confident way, and I totally agree, Caroline. I think that idea of saying we do it, we have our own way of doing it. If we do, we can do it like you do it too. It's not it's not necessarily all disabled people do it differently. Most don't. They do it just like everybody else, and that actually, we can bring something new to the table. One of the things I remember learning was I associated with the fetish scene was the fact that there are quite a lot of people that associate pain with sex anyway. So actually, there's people that pay good money to experience, kind of something like the pain that we kind of have when we have sex anyway.
Disabled people may not, some of them, be getting the sex that they want, not because of their disability, but the fact that they're not out there finding the people that are right for them.
Yeah, we do tend to, I think as a community, we tend to blame it a lot on being disabled without ever expanding our view and thinking, well, is there more to this? How do I dress? What do I look like? Where do I go? What things am I to do? What am I expecting from other people? And it's kind of, like I said, we're back to that thing of demanding and deserving sex as a right. And it isn't. Sex isn't a right. Being sexual, being considered a valid human being is, but not being sex, because sex is something that is kind of almost given to you by someone else. It's a consensual act, however many people are involved. I keep saying this because I think it's very important to accept the pan community. And I think that, that whole thing is about, that's what it's about. It's about saying that I want to be the best that I can be, so that if I meet the right person, they see the best me. The majority of society now goes, well, being gay is part of nature. It's just normal. That's it. Get on with it. Same goes for disability. Disability and having impairments and having bodies that are different is part of nature. So we are natural. And so we need to start saying about that. We need to push that front. It's not that we're broken and we're less. We're just part of the human tapestry. And so then we can say, and this is our normal. And each one of our normal is slightly different from the other normal, because none of us are the same. But we all share being made to feel less, to feel excluded, to be pushed out, to say, I would like to find a vibrator on a stick, for example. I would like to be considered sexy. I would like to see myself on television in, it's happening more and more, but sort of, in not in a kind of thing about being disabled or just part of life. And one of the things about the gay community is you have gay characters in things now, and then you have sort of gay stories like, It's a Sin. Do you know what I mean? And that was a fantastic program. We need that too. And we don't get that yet.
We need a story about disabled people out there just doing what people do normally.
I mean, to be honest, I think that's the next fight. And I think that's for the next generation. I think we've done I don't think we've got a fight around being older. The disability bit isn't the case anymore. I know from my own experience that I don't get work now because I'm not disabled. It's not because I'm disabled, it's because I'm old.
I posted, I can't remember who it was. There was someone on Graham Norton. The news presenter who was shot.
Right, I know.
He was on Graham Norton. There was no sign of his wheelchair. They'd sat him down and moved his wheelchair away.
I used to jump out because I thought it was important. Like, say it was a sofa, I'd sit on it, but I'd always have my chair next to me, and I'd say to him, "No, don't move it," because I want it. Because if you're on a bloody panel show and they go, and so Frank Gardner, tell us about what it's like to be disabled, and he goes, "Well, I'm disabled," and everyone goes, "Who the hell is he?" And what? You need the chair there to almost go, "See, that's mine. This is why I'm here." because a lot of them will just whiz it off because they think it makes the shot ugly. Because someone like myself and someone like Frank, we're the acceptable wheelchair type people in that our bodies aren't in any way that too much different, unless you have a real old look and go, his legs are a bit thin. Do you know what I mean? But so it's quite hard. So we're talking about our lives and we're going, in my wheelchair, and everyone's like, where's his chair?
Chair or no chair, it is plainly obvious I have a disability, which brings me to a story that I'm not sure I should share, but my hands are shaped a certain way. And
what's your address, Caroline?
I say he's a gentleman, he probably wasn't, but he commented on how they were perfectly shaped for a particular action.
There you go. The first toy for Disability Horizons Sex Toys Company is the Caroline hand.
They'll be moulding your hands,
the vibrating hand.
You stumbled on something. I'm going to research that and see if I can have a mould made. Yes,
copyright it.
Copyright it
yes,
now.
I copyright the Caroline hand.
Caroline hand.
You're right. I've just been Carolined.
Oh god.
It can come with an attachment so that if you can't reach the bits, you stick it on a stick. And then it can also come with another attachment to put a vibrator into it, so then you can attach the vibrator. So it's good for everybody. So basically,
universal, unisex.
And the great thing is, you can try it out yourself and say, "Well, now I'm feeling really weird because now I'm pleasuring myself with a vibrator with my hand in my hand on a stick in my hand." It'll be, and there you go. That is why the whole world needs to talk to us about sex, because only we can come up with something that weird.
So when Caroline's husband there comes in and says, "Give us a hand," we're all like,
"Hey!" We'll wait till this goes out, then, Caroline. We will start sharing it. Expect those knocks at the door. Yeah.
I hope not. Only if they're knocking with a Caroline hand.
Oh, you got a handle or a knob on the door. Yeah.
And with that, thank you so much, guys. I'm going to go and cry and look at the edit.
Yeah, no. But do you know what? One of the great things about having the floppy cock, it don't bloody matter how big it is, mate. And let's hope you don't put that in. That if that comes up at the end of the credits, I'm going to kill you.